Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Good to see all of you and welcome once again. All right, so this is what we're going to be doing today. I want to make time as effective and as easy as possible. So what I've decided to do was rather than just talk for minutes upon minutes about Act 3, Scene 2, I decided to break it up into a 4-part series. Each part being released a day after another until we reach Sunday and we have wrapped up all of Act 3, Scene 2. What we're going to be going over today, as you can see by this board right here behind me and kind of to my left, to my right, I'm not really sure how the camera's oriented. Whatever the case, we're going to be going over Act 3, Scene 2, Part 1. And the two topics to cover today are Oberon and Puck's conversation, as well as Demetrius and Hermia's conversation, okay? We're going to go over those one by one. I have in front of me here where you can't see my notes and other notes that I have taken in regards to these things. I have it comprehensively broken down behind me. Feel free to look at it at any time as I go through it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and make this as effective as possible. We're going to go ahead and get started with Oberon and Puck's conversation. All right, if you have read, which most of you should have, you should know that how it starts is Puck lays out the full plan after all of Oberon's speculation. He talks about how he replaced Bottom's head with that of a donkey and how Titania woke up, saw himself, and fell in love with him. Very, very good. Very, very excellent. My apologies. Right, so that's what we have here in front of us right now. All right, brings us to Titania's under the spell. Good, we got it done. Cross it off. Oberon asks Puck if Puck put the love potion on the eyes of the Athenian. And Puck says that yes, he did, and probably saw the woman when he woke up because he was right next to her. Something Oberon doesn't seem to question, but whatever, that is the case that we're dealing with here. So, things look good. Everything seems to be going according to plan. Oberon seems happy. He's pretty fired up about the way things are going so far. However, that is not all appears as it seems. Is that how the saying goes? Not all seems as it appears? Whatever, it doesn't matter, right? They have an uh-oh, it's not. They have themselves an uh-oh moment, right? Because what happens is Demetrius and Hermia then enter the scene bickering, right? And that is when they have their uh-oh moment because Oberon, Puck expresses that is the person who was sleeping next to him, and then Oberon states that was the man that he was talking about, to which Puck says that is not the man he saw. Uh-oh. It's one of those like those like sitcom moments where you look at each other and you're like, not exactly what we had in mind, but doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so I think we've covered that basis. Let's go ahead and move on to Demetrius and Hermia's conversation. If you look here, you probably can't really tell what that is because I'm a horrible artist, but what we have here is my way of drawing a pair of boxing gloves because really there's no justice I can do by breaking this down. It's really just an all-out brawl between these two individuals, and you will get to what I'm talking about exactly in just a moment. All right, so basically to look at my notes and to go over this very briefly and quickly, Hermia is scolding Demetrius. She is fired up, folks. She is suspicious. Demetrius may have gone too far and murdered, right, Lysander. Things are getting pretty crazy now. She finds it hard to believe Lysander would ever just get up and leave. She begins using metaphors to the sun and the earth, basically in this essence saying that Lysander loved her so much, almost eternally. She also tells Demetrius that if he liked Lysander, he is best to kill her too. What we are seeing here again, folks, is this passionate love that these individuals have, right? That death just serves as an extension to the fierce proclamation of love that they have towards one another. This is not the first time that we are seeing this. This is actually, that happens quite often where there is just this brink of death like we have gone over in the past, and how there's this kind of connection between love and death and what it is meant to serve. And how because Hermia is so shaken up by the fact at the potential idea that Lysander is gone, that she is willing to be gone as well. Right? Not something just individualized to this play, but something we see in Shakespeare quite often. But whatever the case, let's go ahead and move on. Let's keep it going. Hermia also tells Demetrius he looks like a murderer because he essentially looks dead himself. My goodness, folks. She's really out to get him. Right? Basically calling him a walking ghost, meek, gross looking, all that, whatever have you. Demetrius flips the switch and says he looks this way because Hermia killed his heart with the cruelty that she gives out towards him, right? Saying that I am just a representation of what you have done to me and my emotions is what we can call it. Hermia then pleads with Demetrius to do the right thing, to give Lysander up, to tell her where he is and what is going on, right? And what's Demetrius' response to all this? He'd rather feed his bodies. He'd rather feed Lysander's dead body to his dogs, right? Again, it's a boxing match, folks. People are going back and forth. They're fighting. They're bickering. They're not happy. But you know what? They're getting things off the table. They're saying what they feel they need to say. And obviously, this doesn't necessarily go the way that they want it, right? So with all this being said, Hermia is understandably upset. And she just wants the truth. She pleads with him to just please tell her, did he kill him being Lysander, right? Did Demetrius kill Lysander while he was sleeping? And he doesn't even need to answer it because she feels it is true and compares Demetrius to a snake by basically saying he is one. Because just like how a snake can kill somebody in the middle of their sleep, there's no worse snake than Demetrius, who would have just done the same thing. Well, Demetrius decides that he's had enough and basically tells her, much more sincerely this time, not kind of being a little jerk this time, that she's freaking out over nothing, that as far as he knows, Lysander isn't even dead. Because as we know as the audience, through dramatic irony, that we know that Lysander isn't actually dead. But obviously this isn't the case for the characters in the play. Well, Demetrius saying this leads Hermia to telling Demetrius to let her know Lysander is on right. Basically wanting to hear from somebody that it is true that Lysander is actually okay. And then Demetrius flips right back to his conniving little way and asks in return that if he were to say that, what he would get out of it. And if you're wondering, does he have malintent? Is he kind of being, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Is he being kind of, not rude, but very ill-intentioned is what we'll call it? The answer is most likely yes, folks. That answer is definitely most likely yes. Okay, at this point, Hermia has had enough and leaves, vowing that Demetrius will never see her again, despite whether or not Lysander is actually dead. So basically, folks, to wrap things up here really quickly, I want to do this before we hit the 10-minute mark. We have these individuals who are going at it, right? We have 4 characters in this part 1 of 4. Right, we have these 2 individuals in the beginning thinking that everything is going according to plan, obviously to know that some mistake has been made, because as we already know in these kinds of things, those mistakes typically are being made. And then another thing that we see is that we have this fight between Demetrius and Hermia, right? We know that they have a past relationship, so far more on Demetrius' side than anything, and they obviously aren't getting along to start, but now we find ourselves in a conundrum is what I'll call it, because we see this back and forth bickering upon whether or not Lysander is actually around or not. Because as far as Hermia is concerned, Lysander is one of the greatest things that has ever happened to her, and that he would never do anything to betray her in any way. So the only rational thing that makes sense is that Demetrius is the reason for his disappearance. To which Demetrius, all right, doesn't just keep sticking to his word and saying, I promise I didn't do anything. He decides to have some little fun with it, which kind of tells us a little bit more about his character and kind of what he's all about and what he does and everything attached to that. All right, this is all just a crazy, tricky situation that all these characters are trying to navigate on the fly. All right, it's pretty crazy. Things are ramping up. Things are obviously going to get more intense, as we probably imagine from this point out. There is a lot to be dissected here in Act 3, Scene 2. All right, please tune in tomorrow as we go over more, as we go along this path. By the end of Part 4, we will have covered all of Act 3, Scene 2, and I hope that you will have gotten something from it before that maybe you have already seen or maybe you have not already seen. But whatever the case may be, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate you watching these videos. I hope they help you a lot and they serve as an extension of your learning, and that you tune in to just be able to get a little bit more of an explanation so that you have more answers to the thoughts that I already know you can all have on your own. Whatever the case, though, make sure you tune in tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, as we wrap up Act 3, Scene 2. I am happy to help you in any way that you need help. Feel free to email me. Feel free to get in contact with me in any way that you possibly can. I look forward to keeping in touch. I look forward to hearing from all of you. All right, and with all that being said, folks, take care, be well, and as we say back in California, keep on keeping on, folks. See you later.